Hey guys, it's Matthew here once again, and once again we are pretty late to the starter build action. I don't really like to do too many provisional or, POB theorycraft based starters. I like to kind of just go into the game, try things out, and then give you results after we do all that. But that said, I do have just a few builds I can kind of confidently and kind of provisionally give you that aren't probably what everyone else is giving, and maybe that's something that you're going to be looking for. But of course, there are a lot of content creators out there now giving you lots of comprehensive builds and some of the more stronger meta shit that I would honestly recommend if you're looking at some melee stuff anyway. So I've got the Tornado Inquisitor, which pretty popular request. People want to play some tornado action right from the get-go, and it can be a pretty good starter. It can also scale into Oblivion with much better, stronger setups. I'm also going to do some double strike Gladiator action, which is going to be a bit more on the rough end of start for melee, and then of course a Warden, which we don't really know what the fuck's happening with yet. We're testing it out for the first time, especially with the tinctures. But that one will be currently Volcanic Fissure, but it should be kind of flexible to try other skills as well. I personally will be starting between either the Gladiator or the Warden and leading the charge with those, while the Inquisitor itself is just a good solid one that I got all the way up to Act 10 and should be just a good build. Tornado, you really cannot go wrong. It is a good freaking skill and has a lot of potential. And that's the one we're going to start with talking about for these starters. So Tornado itself is a skill that's existed for a long time, but there is now a transfigured gem. It came out last league, and it lets you send out up to 3 tornadoes that deal physical into all 3 different elemental types of damage, and they tick every 0.25 seconds. You cannot increase that with any sort of cast speed or anything. The one thing you can do is increase its movement speed with some quality and quality stacking. So what you're going to be seeing here is the default movement speed of Tornado. If you want to see a much faster version, you can check out the Elementalist I played last league. That was one of the best builds I played last league, and it is largely thanks to just the mechanical prowess of Tornado. It's a very strong skill. It has really good damage. It has good clear if you build for the clear. And in general, it's just a comfy playstyle. With this starter build and concept, I have incorporated Penance Brand as well, because you can basically scale both at the same time, and since you can only have 3 maximum tornadoes out at any one time, if you're done pressing tornadoes and just waiting for them to do damage, you can also do some Penance Branding to give extra damage on top of that. And on top of that, you can actually just use Penance Brand instead of Tornado sometimes to pinpoint some enemies across the map who are a bit further away from you, and it also helps bridge the gap of your gear and damage until you are properly ready for Tornado to kind of like hard carry you the entire way. But I don't think you should really ever be dropping Penance Brand. It's just a good additional tool for this build to do extra damage, basically free real estate. This type of build can also incorporate the new Retaliation gem, Divine Retribution I think it is. I have no idea how that's actually going to be. It doesn't look like it's going to be that good, but it might be a fun button to press. Either way, you can incorporate it with this setup, as I've built pretty heavily on block, and that just means you can press it every now and again, see if you like it, and then maybe go from there. So with that, let's have a quick look at the POB. I've got a couple options and also some starting areas to traverse. So I do actually have 3 versions here. The first one is basically the leveling version. If you want to catch up with basically how I level this character, you can check the VODs for the past few days. It's pretty straightforward. Like, you'll grab Rolling Magma, Flame Wall, and you'll basically do that until you're ready for adding Penance Brand and then the Tornado Gem itself to the setup, which is around level 34. You can also use Storm Brand while leveling 2, and basically just went through these top nodes to begin with. I then respec'd into these when I got to this minion damage affects you area. So basically going through there, grabbing some of this, grabbing some of this, and then starting to go over there. You can grab Elemental Overload to level early on as well, and then respec out of that. Essentially, once we're around level 50 or 60, we do unspec some of this and some of this and become more of the actual build, which looks a little more like this one here. So Bear in mind that Tornado is a new gem. It is only accessible through Labyrinth and some div cards, but realistically Labyrinth. So either you have to buy it from someone or you have to run normal lab a few times till you get it. Otherwise, you can just level however you want with Rolling Magma or Stormbrand, Penance Brand until that point if you really want to. The idea of the build at this point though is to have 2 Penance Brands being able to be attached to an enemy, and ideally you're getting Penance Brand of Dissipation in the end. That's the one that functions the best, but the normal one works to begin with, and just tornadoing. And the tornado scales off of physical to elemental, and then consequently elemental damage, as well as a bunch of crit. We are an Inquisitor, so none of our penetration needs to happen, no lowering resists, nothing like that. As long as you crit, you're doing pretty good. And then we're also using the consecrated ground area to maintain a bit more life regen and energy shield regen, so that we can also take mind over matter and Eldritch Battery. So you're going to be spending your energy shield instead of your mana. You're going to be casting tornadoes, penance brands, and in the current circumstance, we can actually take a bit of defense too. So this setup here is quite a bit more defense oriented than I guess I would normally do, especially for a starter, but it should be a bit more comfortable. So you can get a lot of block and spell block at this point, and that is also largely thanks to the new shield that's coming out. I'm guessing this shield shouldn't be too hard to get. It looks like a pretty basic item, low level and shit, but if it's hard to get, you can just use a regular shield and hopefully get some block on it as well, and that should be good too. But this type of thing lets us get to like spell block 90 and also 90 attack block if you can keep scaling the attack block. I've just left it around this point so far, and this should feel pretty thick. It should also proc your Tempest Shield a lot. It should also mean you can proc whatever spell you want in here a lot. So Arc, maybe Wave of Conviction, something like that. And also let you use the Retaliate gem to try out, see if it's any good. We are also using March of the Legion. It's the only source of blessing in the game anymore. It kind of works pretty well in this build so that you can have a basically free aura. And I think in this case we are pressing Zealotry every now and again. You can also sustain Righteous Fire in this build, though if you choose not to do that, you will lose a bit of damage, but you will have a bunch more regen. And the sky's kind of the limit on this one. You can go way higher in investment, make it way better, but we tried to keep it fairly humble. Like the toughest thing is probably Mark of the Shaper, but those would be on the market without too much time passing by. Aside from that, yeah, that's pretty much it. It is a bit more on the tanky side. I do also have a less tanky version, but possibly more damage and maybe more fun, depending on what you like. And our resident Inquisitor expert in our chat, Blackjack King, gave us this one, which is a very similar template, but it's staff-based and a bit more damage-oriented. So it's going to be Glancing Blow instead of Pure Block, and you're going to probably have a lot more damage because staff, dual 6-link, and you can get a bit more damage on the tree with this sort of a setup. So you can see it's going to be a bit more damage. You won't have shield charge around. Instead, you're running haste and running around a bit more, probably flame dashing or blinking a bit more, but bit more damage and another option for you to choose from. So I'll have all three of those for you guys, and Tornado should be a pretty damn solid starter. Probably the only actual starter I'm confident in on this segment, but it's not going to be the fastest build ever without quality scaling and much bigger gear. It'll just be a pretty solid one to get you well into the door for the new league. We then have what, as I said, I'm going to be honest, is a bit of a rough start for a melee character, and it is Double Strike, or aka The Boys melee build. And I've played this many times in the past, and I've even had it as a starter in the past, and it's still an okay start, but comparatively to just like picking up Sunder or Lacerate and Bleed or Ground Slam, something like that, it is going to be rough because you do have to fill out several categories before it starts to take off. The idea is that we're getting the Bleed pops from the Gladiator as our first ascendancy, and that helps carry our clear, but you do need Ancestral Call or additional strikes. You need Melee Splash, you need Fortify, you need good attack speed. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it, and it is a bit rough compared to almost all those other melee starters, but it's absolutely doable. If you don't mind that, it'll get there, and it might even hopefully have big utility for the new sword falling retaliation skill, which is the main reason I want to put this one out there and also maybe play it myself, to try out the new retaliation sword fall skill. On top of that, it's got a few million DPS. It should be a pretty fast character and just have some good bleed pops. I don't think this is going to be like a world beater, but something that can hopefully get us through maps and have some good fun. And I will just have this disclaimer. Pretty much all of these melee, especially the hipster ones, will feel way better as a second character because you'll have like leveling gear that gives you a lot of flat damage. And the biggest change that's happening to all these melee builds is they're losing their flat and having huge added effectiveness. So just having some nice leveling gear for flat damage is going to go a hugely long way to making all these things feel smooth. But don't let that stop you. You can definitely still do the melees. You just will have a much nicer time with the gear. So this one, pretty damn provisional. Let me go ahead and show you the POB. So once again, I'll reiterate that you probably want to just pick up Sunder, like Frost Blades into Sunder, into Double Strike whenever you're ready. Maybe that's when bleed pops happen. Maybe that's when you have some good weapons, because that would be much smoother than what this is. I did do this Double Strike all the way, and you can check the VODs once again a couple of days ago to like see how that process went, because you need to pick up Ancestral Call, that's at like level 4. You need to get Melee Splash and then spec into Splash to get rid of the Melee Splash. You need to get the extra range, you need to get the extra attack speed, and you need to keep upgrading your weapons. And then, yeah, look, it can be okay. And once you get to the bleed pops, I simulated them this time with Hemophilias just at level 43. Once you get to those, it should feel pretty damn juicy and you'll have a lot of fun. The single target I still don't think will be crazy, and you try and pick up a Vile Double Strike as soon as possible, whether you trade for one, do Vile side areas, whatever it is. That's going to make the build feel a lot more fun because that's when you get the boys, yeah, it's kind of worth it. I don't really have a plan here for like what Double Strike we're using. We're just going with the vanilla one, but Double Strike and Momentum might be the play in the end. The idea is essentially to just have a nice Double Strike build that has decent block and then can try and utilize the new Sword Fall, Sword Storm, whatever skill it is, and hopefully that does a lot to bridge the gap on single target, because our clear should be pretty good, our single target might be a bit whatever, and then this hopefully comes in and does a lot of work. If this point feels like it's not really that necessary, we'll go for this one instead in the end, and then if you block recently, you'll have like damn near 90% block to both attack and spell block, so that'll be pretty cool, but we'll see how that goes. Our first point is probably this one, and then, you know, it's kind of up to you. I reckon we'd probably be taking the double block dual wield node, and yeah, the idea is that we're kind of going swords. We're scaling crit and stuff. Until you're ready for the crit, you should spec into precise technique early on. Make sure you're getting accuracy above your life though, because that's pretty pivotal. And to begin with, I would recommend like going down this way and then just going straight for the melee splash. So once you've done that and start filling out the rest, you can kind of like respec back into the more optimal tree, but it's pretty damn like important to be getting to the melee splash, and either the additional strike or one mastery that I actually like taking early on is 5 attack speed per enemy in close range. You are usually going to be fighting like 3 to 5 monsters when you're going for an attack, which is, you know, about 20% attack speed whenever something's near you. So that's pretty comfy early thing. If you want to grab that, you can, and ultimately can get rid of it for the additional strike, because the goal will be to try and get rid of Ancestral Call from the build, and then just rely on something like that. So we spec a lot of block, we spec a lot of crit, and it's a tough melee world these days, honestly, because every single passageway feels like it wants to be 150 points. You want rage, block, fucking leech, life, attack speed, crit, and fortify, mana reduction. There's a lot of stuff, so it's pretty tough to put together. I'm not too sure how worth it it's going to be doing Double Strike as a starter. I may start this one or the build I'm about to talk about, which is the Warden Choose Your Own Adventure, but Volcanic Fissure. So Volcanic Fissure, a skill I have done a good few times in the past, a few times vanilla and once the transfigured snaking version, which is what you're seeing on the screen now. It is a very strong skill. I'm a very big fan of this one. Not everyone is, not entirely sure why. I think it's one of the best skills out there. It can be super strong, it can be super comfortable, it can be very versatile. I don't know how good it is for a starter, especially as a warden. I can get up to like a few million damage, but it's really not that impressive. But leveling with it did feel pretty clean, and I'm not too scared of actually trying that out. I'm just not sure about the ceiling on it once it starts getting to like red maps and beyond, at least without some more funky interactions and funky gear. But the default version is the one that just shoots out like a fissure, which is kind of like Molten Strike, but ranged, and it scales off of projectiles, projectile damage, additional projectiles, that sort of thing. The snaking version is the one that chains around a few times, and it's pure scaling off melee. But it's got like kind of homing technology that can even go around walls, and forget everything you knew about melee, because this shit basically ain't that. It can go around walls, it can go chaining to various mobs in various places, and you can be pretty damn safe when attacking this thing if you really want to be. It's a lot of fun. It can multi-hit on a single target as well, so don't just take its initial hit as its entire tooltip value. You do want 20 quality on it, because that's when it goes from 2 fishes to 3 for when it snakes around. And it's just going to be kind of a very provisional Warden passive tree, because I'm not too sure how comfortable the tinctures are going to be to have in a build. They look like they should be pretty good, but can you run 1? Can you run 2? Do you want to? All of that is kind of a big question mark at the moment. And other than that, Scorch should feel really good first up. I do love the 80% more button on demand, so that might be good too. And I'm just not too sure how to actually go for scaling with an unbound, with a tectonic freaking fissuring, snaking situation while having starter gear. So bit provisional. It may be the character I play in the morning, but this is the best I can do for now to show you what I've cooked up, and user beware. This one won't really be included as a POB or anything. This is kind of how I was leveling. Once again, you can check the VODs, and it leveled pretty well. It's once again another skill that you have to get somewhere else in the lab. It's not one you're going to get by default. I did level with Frostblades into Volcanic Fissure at level 12, and then into Volcanic Fissure of Snaking once I hit like 34, something like that, around lab time. You can run Fissure early on, but it is going to be a bit clumsy. You can run Frostblades until you're ready to make this swap. Once I did get Volcanic Fissure of Snaking, even with kind of shitty scaling, it was doing pretty damn good. So what you just saw in test is going to be like half as bad as what the live launch will be, just for damage numbers, and I intentionally kept it really scuffed. Like, we are talking pretty bad gear. My weapons aren't, you know, the whole worst thing, but almost everything is like a blue or white item, and it still works pretty well. It's just a mechanically nice, strong skill. That's kind of how I leveled. I just grabbed some passives and stuff, but early on, if you're going to level with like regular Volcanic Fissure and Frostblades, you probably just want to take some proj nodes so you have some actual damage, and then spec out of those later. So I didn't really, have too much direction here, and it's on the current passive tree, not the new one here. But once we're up and going, I think we can maybe go into kind of a block situation with just an axe, and this is what the tree would look like, and it kind of builds itself. There's no real starting or ending point. You just follow the tree. And I don't know how well this will go. It's a lot of block. It's not the most life. It's a lot of evasion. It's maybe something that ends up working out, but the damage doesn't seem too good. The idea is to just kind of go a basic tri-ellie axe. I'm not sure how worth it this will be. So like I said, user beware, because it's going to be based around tinctures, and tinctures could be completely insane, and they could just feel not that good. They could be completely insane and feel really good. Or they could just be kind of crap and then feel crap. So we don't really know, but I'm imagining they should bridge a lot of the gap for an attack-based Warden for DPS numbers and stuff like attack speed, crit, maybe rage, stuff like that. I did also cook up a different tree, similar sort of tree, but with a two-handed weapon, so just a tri-ellie flesh ripper, which has a lot better damage, still a little bit more life, but still kind of on the squish end, because it's just going to have some evasion and some suppress, which should be enough. Like, for my mind, it's just whether or not it feels good with the attack speed and stuff, because it should be enough just based on the fact that you are pretty much a ranged character, one that has a pretty defensive playstyle. So keep that in mind. But this type of a warden, I'm hoping, can just do many different Ellie skills, maybe some wild strike even. But Volcanic Fissure is the one I'm choosing, and if I go this character, I'll probably try and lead the charge with the Volcanic Fissure. If I go the other one, I'll try and do some double strike and Gladiator. Both I can't really recommend. It's just that if you want to do them, do them. There will be much nicer starters out there. And I do think the Tornado is going to be a much nicer starter too. But if you're fixated on this type of shit, feel free to go ahead. It should get you somewhere. It shouldn't be too bad. It's just not going to be the best. So that's about all I can say. And yep, sorry for leaving it too late. As always, I hate POBing and theory crafting. I like playing the game and figuring character out and then giving results. And this is the bane of my existence. But we got there somewhere. I don't know. Hopefully. But I wish everyone a great league start. I hope the league mechanic is everything we hope it's going to be. I at league have no doubt the start of the league is going to be a lot of fun. And I will see you guys in the morning where I will have some kind of attempt at a cosplay. Can't really promise anything there either. I'm still putting stuff together. So who knows? Thank you very much for watching. See you guys next time.